Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.
Welcome to your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry, and today we're talking about Legends of Rota, specifically a grant recently awarded by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council to document these legends in a particular way. And here to tell us all about it is the grant recipient, Jack Doyle. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this and get this out into the world.
Well, some people may recognize your name from your work on the Marianas variety video production Around the Islands. You were co-creator, audio engineer, editor, videographer, guest host. Is there anything you didn't do on the show?
No, truly a jack of all trades. Try to live up to the name.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get here to the Marianas?
So, my dad has been out here for a handful of years now. Dr. Doyle, a lot of people probably know him. He's kind of a celebrity. But he's been out here for a handful of years, and maybe 5 years ago, I guess, I came out here in 2017. He was having a heart surgery, and I was going to college at the time. I was in Georgia, going to the University of North Georgia for film. I was maybe 3 semesters in, and they never let me touch a camera. And I was like kind of dying for a change. And when my dad was saying that he needed to get this surgery, I have 3 siblings out here. At the time, it was a 5-year-old and 2 3-year-olds. And they, I came out here to help out. And I guess it's been a while since he recovered, and I have not chosen to leave.
Well, we're really fortunate to be benefiting from your technical expertise in the field of video production, and now your creative, maybe more producer editorial side. How did this project come about?
So, initially, when I was working at the Variety, the other creator of Around the Islands, my friend Sophia Perez, when we were working there, she had an idea for a children's show. And it was sort of a vague idea of like Sesame Street meets Dora the Explorer for Chamorro.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's exciting. But so we pitched these ideas back and forth for a while, and one of the ideas that came about was an animation that would play on the show that would talk about Chamorro legends. And, the stuff at the Variety kind of wrapped up at the start of COVID. And Sophie was able to apply for a grant and get a hold of basically permissions and stuff to start producing this show, hopefully. And it started to become real. And she was asking me, what would you want to do for the animation? And I thought maybe initially it would be more like stick people, sort of. You'd be looking at cave drawings. Like if you look at, there's cave drawings in Guam from Chamorros, and there's like this really specific way that they drew the people and everything with these like forked out toes and stuff. It was like this really specific style. Yeah. So I thought initially maybe it would be something like that, and maybe done on like a paper of woven like palm fibers or something, almost like a storybook, but with these stick figures and things. And I started doing that, and then I wasn't really liking the way that it was looking, and this game came out on PlayStation called Dreams. And the idea of the game was it's just a program where you make video games, or you make animations and things like that. It's like 3D modeling and programming and all sorts of things all like rolled into one program, and it was on the PlayStation, so I got that. And I was messing around one day, and I made Latte Stone, and I was like, this looks pretty cool, and it was pretty quick to make. So I then, from there, built a whole latte house. And I was like, I could definitely do something with this at this point. And talked with Sophie, and she agreed, like, this might be a really cool way to do the animation, and it all just fleshed out from there. I finished making the whole village, and we came up with this idea. I was sculpting in virtual reality. I had this, like, attachment for my PlayStation, so it was like, when I work on some of this stuff, it's like I'm really carving it out of wood, or building it with clay. Like, I'm using my hands and swinging them around, like I'm
Really?
chipping away at a giant, piece of wood to make a carving.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it was all just, like, a bunch of fun to figure out and put together and really, like, explore as an artist, because I had never done 3D modeling or anything like that before, and I've always enjoyed exploring artistic avenues like that, but it's hard to do it when you don't have, like, a specific reason to. So for it to be like, oh, maybe I can, figure out how to make a Chamorro village, and now all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I've got the village, I guess I should figure out how to make an ocean, and figure out how to make this and that, and so, like, it all kind of evolved from there.
And you actually gave me the opportunity to kind of have a sneak
Yeah, a little
preview
sneak peek.
of what you've created so far. And I have to say, it really gives the feeling of, I don't want to say DreamWorks, but, like, I wanted to know what the story was about. And I think kids are really going to be able to identify, and they're going to be interested in the way you've created this world. It's going to be visually interesting, and I could just imagine, the story being told, and then you add music to that, and definitely, I think it's going to touch a lot of people who watch it.
I hope so, yeah.
So why this particular topic of Legends of Rota?
Well, I guess when we started doing Around the Islands and things like that, it was kind of a really great way to explore the culture and the people here and everything like that. And little things would get touched on here and there, like, oh, this, spirit on Rota or something, or the Tautamona here, and things like that. And you'd always get, like, vague hints, but it's like, I never really could
Get the whole
story,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, when we were looking for what to make the animation about, I thought, like, how cool would it be? When I was little, I would watch these cartoons on HBO. There was, like, some HBO children's program, and it would tell fables and like old like Cinderella nursery stories and all that stuff, and they would put it in a certain culture. So, like, there would be, for example, like Cinderella, but taking place in, like, an African village or something, and so a lot of that culture would come into the animation. And so initially I thought maybe something like that could be cool. Like, maybe we just retell old stories and give them a Chamorro, reskin. Mm-mm. But when we got to talking about it, we realized, like, there's so many stories that the Chamorros could actually tell that could be as cool as these stories that everybody's always known, and could be just as impactful. And I wanted to bring that out. I wanted to learn. I was excited to figure all that stuff out and see just how those stories kind of impact the culture and the people in it and stuff, Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And thank you for making that decision to tell these local stories, because we need more resources about local information, local history and culture made by people locally. So this certainly fits into that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So it's going to be 5 stories. And how long is each story? And where do you envision them being used?
So there are 5 stories, one of which is already in production. It's The Legend of the Duendes. Excuse me. It's The Legend of the Duendes. That one is being produced for this children's show, Island Time, that we're working on through the council. So there's 4 more. Yeah, the one that's being told for Island Time is Tomas Mendiola's Story of the Duendes. We've also got a handful of other people. We have Matthias Teisakan telling the story of Taga's footprint, Sixto Taimanau telling the story of Rota's Peace Memorial and its significance. We have Richard Manglonia talking about the White Lady, or the Lady in White, who's it's a ghost story, which I'm really excited about. And then Chris Ogo, who will also be the narrator, will be providing the legend of Rota's water cave and the chiefs of Talakasa and Usalon, I believe they're pronounced, from Rota. And so, yeah.
And who is the target audience? Or is there a particular audience you're aiming these towards, or a way that you envision them being shared with the community?
Yeah, actually, we are working with PSS, or I guess I'm working with PSS. I received a letter of support from the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Alfred Atta, as well as Jonas Barcinas, the CCHLS Program Director.
Which stands for Chamorro Carolinian Language, CCL, what was
CCHLS.
Language Study, Heritage, and
Chamorro
Language
and
Studies.
Carolinian Heritage.
Between you and me, we're going to get the name of this.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Go ahead. So they're also supporting?
Yeah, so letters of support from them. So hopefully the outcome will be these videos will be played in Chamorro classes. Like these stories will be told by these people. Hopefully I'll be able to, get everything down and crunched up right so that we can hold some children's attention. But, it'll be narrated all by Chris Ogo. Hopefully maybe 10 minutes each, about 5 to 10 minutes. And there'll be subtitles and everything. Hopefully kids in Chamorro classes will learn from it. And so that's kind of the target audience, is like kids who want to learn Chamorro or learn about Chamorro culture and things like that. But really, I guess anybody who might be interested would hopefully learn from it.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the narration is going to be in Chamorro and the subtitles will be in English, or what is your plan for that?
It'll be in Chamorro, the audio, and there will be English and Chamorro subtitles.
Very good.
So you'll be able to hopefully learn along with it as you listen and watch. Yeah.
Well, this is pretty exciting. I want to talk a little bit more in the second half of our show about the actual legends and some of the partners that you have. And we'll be back with more. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. We'll be back with more after this break.
Half a day. Pagkunasakan ta celebra imina 30 años desde Managua, Northern Marianas Humanities Council. In Northern Marianas Humanities Council, manazuzuda gi comunidad para uabiba ilinala todo tauto Marianas. Tat kumiyazudu gi man ilo information den tilingu por Marianas, iazudu gi mafatinas leblus an ortuna documentu, iazudu siha ginini exhibitioni differentes na programanya siha, zan hanagwagwaha con bisasyon gi entuli tauto Marianas. In kumbibiraham de todo para indanyai i Humanities Council di actividad siha ni managwagwaha pagkunasakan. Pues maila de tafana abisita, tafana ilie gesti siha na actividad tata celebrahi. Sizus maasit.
Welcome back to your Humanities Half Hour. We're speaking with Jack Doyle. He's the recipient of a grant from the Northern Marianas Humanities Council to produce some animated shows on the legends of Rota. Jack, you mentioned that there are actually a number of people that are supporting this project. How were you able to find the stories and the people that will be assisting?
So a lot of them were given to me, or I guess all of them ended up being through Chris Ogo. He gave me a big handful of names, kind of wished me luck.
And he works at the Office of Indigenous Affairs, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He kind of, gave me numbers and emails and wished me luck and sent me on my way with a pat on the head. And I had, maybe like 2 months to put this grant together and try to get these stories, and I was up to the wire, or down to the wire, I guess, on the very last day, because nobody in Rota would answer their phones. I was calling government offices, I was calling people's cell phones, their home phones, and it was just nothing. And the people I did get a hold of were very gracious to give me some really exciting stories that I'm super thrilled to be able to tell. But yeah, it was really like on the very last day I had to Chris is narrating one of the stories in here, which I did want, but it wound up being a little bit of a fallback just because I had to call him and say, Chris, I can't get a hold of these people that you gave me. And so he said, okay, I've got a good one for you. So we were able to get a legend for Chris Ogo as well, which I'm excited about because it's a narration of a story that, he knows, it really is, it's from him. So I think that's going to be kind of a special episode with it.
Now, I understand some of these stories you're still learning about yourself, but are there any that you could share with us that you may know a little bit more detail on?
Yes. I guess the first episode, which, as we kind of said, is mostly, it's kind of almost done. There needs to be the narration put in and, camera motions and stuff smoothed out and things like that. Lots of technical stuff that I'm sure nobody wants to hear about. But that one will be about the legend of the Duendes, which is the spirits of unborn children who live in the jungle, and they're unseen by the people in the village and are kind of like, like calling out to be back in a sense, and it's really intense in regards to that sort of subject matter on it, but at the same time it breaks it down into the magic of these spirits who act almost like poltergeists in a sense. They're not malicious, from what I know at least. They're more mischievous, but they would sweep flowers out to the beach. These medicinal flowers that the stories from Tomas Mendiola, and his mother was a medicine woman on Rota, and so he would learn about these medicinal flowers and things, and these flowers that he learned about, the Masidsid flores, were the flowers of the Duendes, and they'd give them to pregnant women to protect their child and things like that. But they would take these flowers and sweep them out to the beach, and he tells the story of his mother taking him up a cliff and showing him from the top, like when you look down at the way that the flowers were, the way that he had seen it blown out to the beach by the wind. When you looked at it from the top, it was a big outline of the Masidsid flower out of Masidsid flowers. So, it's just like this beautiful story of like, even though maybe these spirits are lost, they show you like we're still here, and here's this beautiful thing that we can bring to your life that, you like we're making for you. It's like this really, there's magic to it, even though it kind of covers a serious topic, which I think is a good way to go about content made for children. Like if you look at Disney movies and things like that, a lot of it is like a lot of parents are gone in the Disney movies, and they just kind of are like, that's the way it is. Okay, let's go. And you don't really think about it, but like, it's impactful. And I hope that kind of comes across here as well. Like, it's serious subject matter that hopefully is watered down enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of makes me think, back in those days, there were probably more unborn babies lost than there are today, either due to poor nutrition or lack of medicine or diseases introduced by outsiders. And so that kind of makes sense why this would be an important story to the people. Yeah. And then I had always thought, how important the first birthday is in the local culture. The families usually have like a big party for the first birthday, and I always thought that maybe it's a carryover from an old tradition where maybe a lot of newborns didn't make it to their first birthday for the same reasons that I just described.
Yeah, so. And one of the aspects of the legends of the Duendes is they'll like if a child is off playing by themselves, the Duendes might drop a coconut on their head and take them to the land of the Duendes. And so, I'm, again, not like an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just kind of learning. But what you said, like, definitely makes sense. I mean, imagine, losing a kid before their first birthday, and you just kind of have to, reason with that in whatever ancient way you had to say, well, the Duendes took them. He's with the Duendes now. So it's a pretty good little speculation there you've made.
Yeah,
we've made, I guess. But
yes, just a little imagining there on our part.
Of course.
So, are there any other stories that you've kind of delved into a little bit that you could share some details with us on?
Yeah, one thing that I'm excited about is Matthias Teisekan telling the story of Taga's footprint in Rota. I don't know too much about it. I almost kind of, shushed him a little bit when he was telling me, because I was like, okay. I definitely want to, when you tell me the story, I want it to be everything all at once, But, it's a legend that I think is told all across the Marianas that people might have a better idea of this than some of the other legends. I think just that Taga jumped from Guam all the way to Rota, and Matthias Teisekan has, he knows the location of the footprint and things like that. So I'm hoping to get a real good, Paul Bunyan story out of that, really capture this Chamorro superhero, Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about that one. And then another one that I'm excited about, Richard Manglonia will be telling the story of the Lady in White. And she was a Chamorro woman who was murdered out of jealousy. She was very beautiful, and the people in the village, were really jealous of her and murdered her. And she now haunts the island. And I'm really excited to tell a ghost story with this.
You were mentioning Guam and how, for example, the legend of Taga is very similar throughout the Marianas. Maybe some differences here and there, but now that you've mentioned it, I think there's also the legend of the White Lady in Guam, if I remember correctly.
Is it true?
I think so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's really incredible that you are basically, it seems like, being a facilitator in a way for these people you've mentioned who have this these stories and this knowledge to share. I mean, you're not coming in saying, I'm the expert.
No, definitely not. I don't want to give off that impression.
You're the expert in video production.
Maybe even that's a stretch. I try my best at everything.
But yeah, that's really beautiful that you're here to do this with us and for us as people of the Marianas. You were mentioning before that you were studying. What exactly were you studying in college?
I was studying film production.
Okay. How would you feel this particular project, Legends of Rota, relates to other video projects that you've done?
Well, I mentioned briefly earlier that, after 3 semesters of film school, I never touched a camera. But there was definitely a lot of stuff that I learned there about cinematography and crafting a story and things like that, So it was definitely interesting to sit down and do this because I learned a lot when I was doing Around the Islands at Marianas Variety. But this is something entirely different because with the Variety, I was filming a lot of interviews, and that's a pretty simple setup where you just kind of you want this amount of space on the side of this person and this amount of space on the side of this person, the framing, things like that. And then there was B-roll, which is where, you just take a camera and point it at something and shoot it. There's nothing super technical about that. You can get artsy with it. Thank God we had David Butterfield, who was a master of photography and things like that, so we got some beautiful shots from him. But there wasn't an incredible amount of application in regards to the cinematography and things like that. There's no mise en scène in a news interview, which is exactly the face that you're giving me tells me.
Are you using another word I don't know, Jack?
It's another word, yeah. It's,
please explain.
It's essentially everything on camera is put there for a reason, and it exists there for a reason. Their colors are picked out for a specific reason.
Okay.
If you watch Jack Black's Nacho Libre, the use of the baby blue and the bright red are really significant, and you pay attention to when you see those in the movie. There's not that much thought going into an interview. You more so want to see well, we want to make sure we're kind of close to their face because this is really meaningful. We want to make sure that we capture that emotion, which is, another aspect to cinematography. But with this, it's really interesting because I'm building the whole thing from scratch. I'm making this Chamorro village and this beach, and I'm placing the people here. And so I have to be really cognizant of the camera's focal length and, how it moves and where it moves and what's on screen all at the same time. And there's so much more that has to go into it trying to craft this and tell the story at the same time. And capture the story in the shots. Like, you want to make sure while you're watching it, you feel whatever's being told to you, know, and you really got to pay attention to framing and how you move things around and spacing on objects and all that sort of thing. It's, again, like really technical stuff that just requires a ton of thought. I love it. But it is like, when you really sit down and start doing it, it gets so tedious, but it really is, I'm really proud of how everything came out, and it was really fantastic to learn not only 3D modeling, but like set building and prop making and all of this stuff that kind of all goes into this. Like, if I need a tree, I have to make that tree, and I have to make it look exactly the way that I want it, Mm-hmm. I'm moving into another program, hopefully soon, that maybe I won't have to make every single detail like that. But, for the most part, it was, really from the ground up, like building everything. So that was definitely an experience, for sure.
So what is your timeline for getting the first one out, which is largely done, as you mentioned?
Yeah.
When can we look forward to that?
Well, that one, because that one it was sort of specifically for the Island Time Children's Show. I'm not sure when all that will be finished, but depending, I guess December should be when I'm done. That's when...
Because animation takes a long time, folks.
Yeah, it's a lot. But December hopefully should be when I'm kind of wrapping up. That's when my grant is... That's when the deadline is. So if I need more time, hopefully I'll be able to get some. But I'm kind of thinking that might be on a pretty good track, I hope. But, because that one hopefully will be done relatively soon, because I'd love to be able to get that one done before I move on to the new program and before we move on with Island Time, because I want to be there for the shooting and everything of it. So I want to make sure that I'm not behind a computer animating when everybody else is having fun on the cameras. But so maybe we might be able to release that one early, because it might hopefully be done relatively soon, before December. But
Well, we've been chatting today with Jack Doyle. He is the grant recipient for an animation series called Legends of Rota, granted through the Northern Marianas Humanities Council. Jack, any final thoughts before we go?
Oh, I don't think so. Just, I guess, keep an eye out for stuff. I'm really excited to hopefully, share Chamorro culture with everybody as I learn about it. So, stay tuned.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
This program was supported by a We the People grant awarded to the Northern Marianas Humanities Council from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.